I'm Karen Stone, and this is Year by Year. On his Inauguration Day in 1933, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt told the nation, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." America was still stuck in the Depression, but the new president's promise of a New Deal and economic recovery soothed a worn-out and frightened people. The speech set the tone for FDR's administration. He would continue to bring a reassuring warmth to the public with his famous Fireside radio chats. And Americans had another way of getting warmed up that year. After 14 years, Prohibition was repealed, and liquor flowed freely. In the year's newsreels, we'll see these stories and more, including the rise of Mussolini and the Babe Ruth diet. Now, Year by Year presents 1933.
Nope, it ain't no 6-day bike race. It's Babe Ruth doing a velocipede marathon. But if he doesn't take off a ton or two, he'll need a bicycle to get around the bases next summer. You'll take the works, Babe, and like it. They don't pay by the pound, you know. Well, turnabout is fair enough. The Babe gives his trainer a workout now. Watch it, Babe. Look out for the old helium bag. That's his daughter Julia watching, and she acts as his second, too, when he needs it. Nice workout, old kid. Here we are now in California's famous Rose Bowl. And it's Southern California against Pittsburgh. Sebastian, Pittsburgh's star halfback, receives Ernie Smith's kickoff and runs it back to his own 14-yard line. Now Sebastian has the ball again, and he goes through the line for 14 yards, making it first down for Pittsburgh. But California's too strong, and Pittsburgh can't keep up with this good start. A few seconds later, Shanty Hogan, Pittsburgh quarterback, is forced to get his team out of danger with a punt. And Griffith, California's speedy quarterback, grabs the ball and returns it 12 yards. Now, Clark, the fullback, keeps up the good work and nets another 7 yards. Griffith again. He fades back and tosses a beautiful pass 35 yards to Palmer at right, and who makes a perfect catch, and he's over for the first touchdown. It's a gorgeous day, and the huge Rose Bowl is filled to capacity with more than 70,000 cheering, yelling fans. They've been waiting all year for this game, the greatest intersectional football contest of the season. Ray Sparling, California's left end, gets the ball on the kickoff, and on a beautiful end-around play, carries it back to Pittsburgh's 12-yard line. Baby, what a run! Now Griffith again. On a spinner, he makes another 8 yards. Southern California is again within easy striking distance of the goal line. And the next play pushes the old pigskin to the 1.5-yard line. One more pass now. Right to Griffith behind the goal line. And it's one more touchdown. Once again, peace in Manchuria is further threatened by a new outbreak of hostilities on New Year's night. In Shanghai, just inside the Great Wall of China, a bomb was thrown on the railway station, and almost immediately, scenes such as these could have been witnessed. Routed from sleep, Chinese troops rushed to the defense of their city. A short distance outside, the Japanese, also alarmed, got their guns in position and started firing. Japanese army planes swooped overhead, dropping bombs which killed 1,700 Chinese and left the city in ruins. Thrown into panic, civilians of the town hastily gathered their belongings and fled, even while Japanese troops were marching through the gate and down the main street on horseback. The Chinese are noted as valiant soldiers, and they put up a brave defense here. But outnumbered, their city reduced to a shambles, there is nothing much they could do but withdraw. And with Japanese gunboats standing ready for action in the harbor, they were finally forced to admit defeat and leave their enemies in complete possession of their stricken city. Nobody knows what the end of the situation will be. The League of Nations has been debating it for 16 months without reaching any decision. All the world can do is hope for a settlement which will bring peace. General Suzuki and General Nishi of the Japanese Army, accompanied by their staff, make a tour of inspection of the ruins of Shanghai, Guan. Here is a memorial shrine erected by the Japanese in honor of the thousands of their comrades and officers who were killed during recent encounters with the Chinese. It was General Nishi who commanded one of the divisions which participated in the capture of the city. Although it has been several weeks since the Shanghai-Guan battle, things are still active. Japanese troops continue to pour into the city, concentrating for an expected general drive through the entire Jehul front. With the hope of a negotiated peace apparently abandoned, Chinese residents of Shanghai, Guan, who have been holding desperately to their homes, finally pack up their possessions and flee with their families across the Tashi River into safer territory behind the Chinese lines. There is little fighting at present, but empty railway coaches stand ready to rush troops into action at a moment's notice. And a city being bombarded by shell fire is no place for mothers and children. Springtime isn't far away now, and already the young girl's fancy is turning to thoughts of, well, spring shoes, among other things. A white satin evening sandal, so they tell me. Another bit of white satin, an evening faucet, pump, trimmed with silver tin. And here's another, an evening sandal of red velvet. And one for afternoon, a white kid sandal trimmed with red. All very nifty, really a fine display. The shoes are very nice, too. Yes, indeed. 50,000 of Italy's black shirts gather in Rome to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the fascist militia. Mussolini reviews them as they parade smartly along the Piazza di Siena. He's proud of his troops and overlooks no opportunity to honor them. Many of the men here were among the thousands who followed him in his famous march on Rome back in 1922, when he forcibly took over the government to save Italy from communist rule. And Il Duce is not a person who forgets. Bravery and faithfulness to duty are always rewarded. Each year, a list is made out of those who have distinguished themselves in the service of Italy, and Mussolini himself presents the Medals of Honor. It's the crowning event of the day's celebration.
Still to come on Year by Year, the inauguration of Franklin Roosevelt and one of the most famous speeches ever made. Welcome back to Year by Year. On March 4th, 1933, Franklin Roosevelt was sworn in as the 32nd President of the United States. In his inauguration speech, he told the American people they had nothing to fear but fear itself. That speech would inspire the nation and launch it on the road to recovery.
And the hour came on the historic 4th of March to tell the people frankly and courageously that there had to be a new deal. From the inaugural platform erected upon the east front of the majestic Capitol, the President made his speech of acceptance as 150,000 looked on and as 50 million listened in by radio.
This is a day of national consecration. And I am certain that on this day, my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency, I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people impels. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth and boldly, nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance. In every dark hour of our national life, a leadership of frankness and of vigor has met with that understanding and support of the people themselves which is essential to victory. And I am convinced that you will again give that support to leadership in these critical days.
Reporters greeted ex-President Hoover upon his arrival at Oakland Station and requested a statement as to his future activities. But all Mr. Hoover would say was that he was mighty glad to be back in California and would take a good rest at his home in Palo Alto before doing anything else. Mrs. Hoover and son Alan were mighty glad to have the head of the family home again. Sir Malcolm Campbell, British Speed King, at last has finished tuning up his new Bluebird, and the huge monster is wheeled out for its first public showing. Sir Malcolm's just itching to get behind the wheel, but he'll have to wait. There's not enough room in England to do it. It weighs 4.5 tons and has 2,500 horsepower. He and his son Donald are both proud of it. Sir Malcolm hopes he can make it do 300 miles an hour when he gets it on Daytona Beach sometime in February. You'll have to wait a while, Donald, before you can drive a car like your dad's. If these boys and girls had to walk from Chicago to New York without stopping, what a wow they'd make. Well, fun is fun, and walking's good exercise, so they tell me. It's a walkathon contest, and the idea is to walk and walk until the old puppies give out. 1 hour without stopping, rest 15 minutes, then start again. Some collapse from fatigue, or nobody can help you. But there's no rule against cold towels. They've gone 2,500 hours so far. If a partner falls asleep, she gets the airplane whirl. It wakes them. Funny what amuses some people. It's a big day in Swattsville as the teams prepare for this important opening game of the season. Here's the Terror's pitcher. He winds up. He throws it. Zowie! He connects. A nice one. He's winding up again. It's the old spitball, and blam! Another one sails out. It's a hit. No, it's a fly, and it's caught. The runner's trapped, and he gets him. 1 out. Batter up. It's the boy, Babe Ruth. Whang! He swats it. 1 base. 2 bases. It's a homer. Will he make it? No, he stops at third. Watch him. This terror pitcher is looking for the break, and there it is. Slam through the window, and they've got it. The break. There she is. There goes the old ball game. And boy, can they run. Just see them burn it up, dog and boys. With the flood-swollen waters of the Ohio reaching a new high-level crest, whole districts of Cincinnati begin to take on the appearance of an American Venice, a city rising from an inland sea. Industrial sections are entirely cut off from ordinary traffic, bringing additional hardships to thousands of workers deprived of their means of livelihood. Buildings flooded, waterlogged, and some collapsed, reduced to mere piles of wreckage. Red Cross traffic maintained in rowboats and rafts, anything that will float. Homekeepers marooned, depending on supplies ferried across the swirling waters in this primitive fashion. Volunteer workers doing a big job in rescuing and supplying those cut off by the invading flood. This is the picture presented by the inundated city. Housewives have to learn a new art in landing the goods delivered by the boats. It's like the old sport of pulling up a crab at the end of a string. And sometimes the crab falls. There she goes.
Still to come on Year by Year, Eleanor Roosevelt, aviator Wiley Post, and the cost of living in 1933. In 1933, gasoline sold for 18 cents a gallon. Coffee was 26 cents a pound, and eggs were 14 cents a dozen.
The The president's wife taking her exercise astride a horse. It's been a long time since Washington has seen a sight like this, and it looks good. Ah. The camera boys are out in full force to get records of this ride of the First Lady of the land, astride her beautiful mount, Patches. Mrs. Roosevelt takes it all in good part. She and Mrs. Morgenthau graciously stop and pose for the cameras, and it's some picture. Here they come in the greatest of all auto classics, the 500-mile race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The pick of the country's speed demons are out here in that dizzy whirl, pushing their cars to 100 miles an hour and more. Just watch them. Oh! Mark Billman goes over the wall to his doom. Les Spangler and mechanic Jordan also pay the supreme sacrifice in this mad struggle against time. Looks like Tony Golotta's stepping out ahead. Louis Myers out in front, and he's nearing the finish. Yep, there's Gar Wood with the flag, and Meyer wins, setting a new record of 104 1/6 miles an hour.
This is my second race here at Indianapolis I've won. I'm more happy to win this one than the first one, because I was driving a car for a man who laid in the hospital for nearly a year and certainly needed a race. And it makes me most happy that I could win it for him. And this man was hurt out in California, laid in the hospital, and I drove his car here, and you all know him. His name's Ralph Hepburn.
General Italo Balbo and the officers and men of his great air fleet are all set for the hazardous flight back to their native land. It's a hard job pulling away from New York's hospitable shores, but duty is duty. The Italian flyers have had a royal time in Gotham, but now they face a 6,000-mile return trip. And there goes the first plane, General Balbo's flagship, closely followed by others of the first triad. New Yorkers will never forget the glorious sight of Balbo's Armada, and the intrepid birdmen of Italy, no doubt, are taking wonderful memories back with them, too, of Manhattan, of Chicago, and of their admiring well-wishers in the United States. With one last salute to the Statue of Liberty, they're off on the wings of the morning. Here comes Wiley Post, America's newest idol, on his triumphant ride up Broadway to receive the official congratulations of New York City for his record-breaking flight around the world. Miles and miles of ticker tape and tons of confetti shower down upon him as the procession moves slowly up New York's skyscraper canyon. His great solo flight around the earth in less than 8 days was a wonderful achievement. The ambassadors of Germany, Great Britain, and France are here with Premier Mussolini today to sign the famous four-power pact guaranteeing 10 years of peace to Europe's leading nations. Ambassador von Hassel of Germany is the first to sign the important document. The next to sign is Sir Ronald Graham, ambassador to Italy from Great Britain. Then comes Senator Henri Juvenel, the French ambassador. This treaty heals the breach between Italy and France. Finally, for Italy, Premier Mussolini himself inscribes his bold signature with a true Mussolinian gesture, and the four-power pact is official. Following the completion of the pact signing ceremony, Il Duce is wildly acclaimed by the people of Rome, massed by the thousands in the square under his palace balcony. The treaty was his idea, and he deserves great credit for it. The arrival of Uncle Sam's newest cruiser, the Indianapolis, and other warships in Havana Harbor marks a turning point in the affairs of the junta, which suddenly seized power in Cuba. The revolutionary group, including the former Army Sergeant Batista, now Colonel and Chief of Staff, selects a provisional president from among its members. The new president is Dr. Ramon Grau San Martin, a physician of Havana. He is sworn into office at the presidential palace where a huge crowd gathers to cheer him and hear his inaugural address. His pledge of order and a stable government, modeled on that of the United States, arouses great enthusiasm among his followers. In case he forgets his pledges, however, there are several reminders for him right at his doorstep. Cuba must be free from revolt. Everybody's out here at the Minnesota State Fair today to see the thrill of thrills. 2 speeding locomotives in a spectacular head-on crash. And here's one of them, the NRA Special, on her way. The other engine, named Old Man Depression, is starting too. Man, oh man, this is going to be the battle of the century, all right. The engineers put on full steam and jump to safety. Faster and faster the drivers roll. Here she comes, right at us. Watch them come together. There it is. Look out. Wow, some smash. I'm glad it's all in fun. McKinley County, New Mexico is under martial law, and National Guardsmen have been called out to prevent disorder and bloodshed. Under the command of Brigadier General Osborne Wood, son of General Leonard Wood, they are guarding the coal mines and closely inspecting all persons entering mine property. The strike was called by the National Miners Union, a radical organization opposed to the United Mine Workers of America. The strikers are in an ugly mood and threaten loyal workers right under the muzzles of the Guardsmen. NRA officials have been unable to end the strike. It's a bad situation.
Still to come on Year by Year, a fireside chat with President Roosevelt and the favorite radio shows of 1933.
The History Channel.
Hi-ho, silver away. In 1933, the country's favorite radio shows were The Lone Ranger, Eddie Cantor, and Amos and Andy.
It is 3 months, my friend, since I have talked with the people of this country about our national problems. But during this period, many things have happened. And I am glad to say that the major part of them have greatly helped the well-being of the average citizen. In the short space of these few months, I am convinced that at least 4 million have been given employment. Or saying it another way, 40% of those seeking work have found it. That does not mean, my friends, that I am satisfied or that you are satisfied that our work is ended. We have a long way to go, but we are on the way. We come to the relief, for a moment, of those who are in danger of losing their farms or their homes. I have publicly asked that the foreclosure on farms and chattels and homes be delayed until every mortgagor in the country has had full opportunity to take advantage of federal credit. And I make the further request that if there is any family in the United States about to lose its home or its farm, that family should telegraph at once, either to the Farm Credit Administration or the Home Loan Corporation in Washington, requesting their help. I do not hesitate to say that although the prices of many products of the farm have gone up, and although many farm families are better off than they were last year, I am not satisfied. It is definitely a part of our policy to increase the rise and to extend it to those products that have as yet felt no benefit. If we cannot do this one way, we will do it another. But do it, we will. When we have restored the price level, we shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation. I said that in my message to the American delegation in London last July, and I say it now once more. Our dollar is now altogether too much influenced by the internal policies of other nations. Therefore, the United States must take firmly in its own hands the control of the gold value of our dollar. And as a further effective means to that end, I am going to establish a government market for gold in the United States. Therefore, under the clearly defined authority of existing laws, I am authorizing the Reconstruction Finance Corporation to buy or sell gold at prices to be determined from time to time after consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury and the President. This is a policy and not a mere expedient. I have told you the story of our steady but sure work in building our common recovery. In my promises to you, both before and after March 4th, I made two things plain. First, that I pledged no miracles, and second, that I would do my best. I thank you for your faith. Our troubles will not be over tomorrow, but we are on our way, and we are headed in the right direction.
There's no use talking. Russia's winning a place for itself in the eyes and respect of the world again by its ambitious and modern industrial progress. And now, President Roosevelt's written to President Kalinin of Russia, suggesting a conference out of which may come United States recognition of the Soviet government. Kalinin has selected Maxim Litvinov, People's Commissar for Foreign Affairs, to be his envoy to America. Litvinov made a great name for himself at Geneva and at the London Economic Conference, and his coming trip to America will be epical. Meanwhile, Joseph Stalin, the virtual dictator of the Russian people, sees in the glad hand from America an unlimited opportunity to help him educate and direct the great Russian masses in their march to utopia. On the other hand, the Russians need a lot of things that the United States has to sell. Kansas City, Missouri. Here's a real philanthropist. Louis Kumanow, a clothing merchant, is giving away 500 overcoats from his stock to unemployed men of the city. And what a break it is for these poor fellows, with cold weather adding to their miseries. Of course, it's not exactly like being measured to order, but in these days and times, a coat is a coat. Strike conditions have reached a critical stage in the mine and steel plant territory of western Pennsylvania. The strikers are picketing all plants, while the sheriff of Beaver County has organized a strong band of deputies to protect the men willing to work. These deputies mean business, all right, and they're well prepared for it, too. There's bound to be trouble. And there it is. They're using tear gas to break up the strike picketing. It's doing the work, too. Men can't stand up against that stuff. Strikers, spectators, men, women, and children flee, blinded and choking from the gassed area. It's just like a regular war. A 100,000 people are here at Roosevelt Field to see the thrilling air acrobatics of America's leading aces at the National Air Pageant. Some of these boys are just as good upside down as they are right side up. Al Williams, for instance, the former Navy ace. When he takes to the air, you can look for something spectacular in flying, all right, and the crowd knows it. Look at him. For many years, he was a speed wizard, but now he goes in for stunt flying. In fact, he's invented a dozen or more famous airplane stunts. He was a pitcher for the Giants before the war. Now he's one of America's leading daredevils. And here's Major Ernst Udet, famous German flying ace, in some of his sensational acrobatic skylarking. Watch this. He's going to do his noted dead stick loop. There he goes, up and over. It takes real nerve to do that, and to make this dangerous dead stick landing, almost diving headlong into the ground. The Major is one of the world's greatest flyers. Now for a mass parachute jump, 10 daring leaps in as many seconds. How'd you like to hop off into space like that? Not for me. Clem Sohn's making a delayed parachute jump from 13,000 feet. He's falling down. Down. Faster and faster. Why doesn't he open his chute? Something must have gone wrong. He'll be killed. No, there it is. It was a close call, though, only 800 feet up. Brad Perry, England's Davis Cup champ, and Jack Crawford, tennis title holder in 3 countries, are to battle today for the U.S. Singles Championship. And here they go. Perry, on this side, has the edge on the Australian at first by pounding at his opponent's backhand. The little Englishman's dynamic drives are too much for Crawford. A record crowd is out for this rare occasion. It's the first time in 30 years that an American hasn't been in this final. Crawford finds his game after losing the first set and wins a terrific second set, 13-11. He takes the third, too, and then goes to pieces. Perry cleans up the last two sets easily and wins an amazing victory. He's still full of pep, that boy, but Crawford's done up, and no mistake. Perry's the first Britisher that's lifted that cup since Hector was a pup. He certainly earned it, too. They're unveiling the largest book in the world here at Union Square today. It weighs more than a ton and is a weighty preachment against war. It will be taken on a tour in the United States until it contains 1 million signatures subscribing to its plea for universal peace. Outstanding leaders in international peace movements are here to dedicate the book and to be the first to sign it. After the great tome is filled with signatures, it will be displayed in the capitals of Europe and then presented to the disarmament conference at Geneva, provided there still is a disarmament conference. Feminine headgear will show many innovations this season, according to the latest dictates of Paris, as seen here in one of the French capital's swanky salons. For one thing, the hats are to be molded to harmonize with the hairdress. Also, they're to be worn off the face and high on the forehead. Lines are being simplified, too. Yes, sir, the new chapeaux are very easy on the eye, all right, but they'll probably be pretty hard on Papa's pocketbook. Here's a one-man oil refining plant built by Harry Sight, a filling station man of Holdenville. When he found his profits going into the red because of the Depression and the cost of gasoline, he decided he'd refine his own gasoline. So he bought a couple of old boilers and picked up a lot of pipe and rigged up his own refinery. Sight's sitting pretty now. He gets crude oil out of his ground, manufactures gasoline in his own plant, and thus, at minimum cost, gets all the gasoline he needs for his 2 filling stations. His backyard refinery can turn out 2,000 gallons of gas a day. After 6 months spent in the mountains and timberland of the Northwest, manicuring trees for Uncle Sam, these former forest rookies, they're forestry graduates now, are on their way home. Their enlistment in the CCC is up. Most of this group are from around Chicago, and they're going home a lot happier and 12 pounds heavier. Uh-oh, there's a boy who's been sawing wood as well as chopping trees. It's all right, dearie. He'll come back, maybe. The majority of these boys have jobs waiting for them back home. And are they happy? Walter Christie, who invented the Army's fast tank, has developed a new battle wagon, a 2-man convertible combat car weighing 2 tons that can go 100 miles an hour. Zip! I'll say it can. Each wheel is mounted on individual springs. That's why it can travel over rough ground at such speed. And boy, how it takes the hills. What a car this would be for Sunday driving. Washington baseball fans are in a tough spot right now. The Giants are leading 3-1 in the World Series, and the score's now 3-0 in their favor in the 5th game. But wait, Schulte, Washington center fielder, sends a tremendous drive into the left field stands with 2 men on base. It's a wow of a homer, chalking up 3 runs by Banish, Cronin, and Schulte, and tying the score in a double bow knot. Oh, boy, what a climax. What a ball game. But in the 10th inning, Miller, who helped the Giants win the first game with a homer, drives a terrific liner just into the center field stand. It looks like a homer. The umpire stopped him at second. There's an argument. Schulte dove over the fence and knocked the ball down, but the Giants claim it should be allowed as a home run. How about it, Judge Landis? Look, the umpires reversed his decision. There goes Ott around the home plate. It means 4 runs for the Giants, and it wins the game and the World Series. They'll probably argue about that home run decision here in Washington all winter.
Still to come on Year by Year, Prohibition is repealed, so it's bottoms up as America takes a drink. And we'll look at the front page stories of 1933. Stay with us. Front page news in 1933. The first bank holidays are declared in 6 states. Frances Perkins becomes the first woman to hold a cabinet position, and the National Recovery Act is created.
It is a dramatic moment as President Roosevelt signs the bill legalizing beer after 13 years in which its sale was prohibited. So another Roosevelt pre-election promise has become another Roosevelt accomplishment, and in the shortest possible time for such an important measure. Here at the little White House in the Georgia woods, the liquor industry has just been placed under virtual control when the president signed the temporary liquor code brought down from Washington to him by Secretary of Agriculture H.A. Wallace. With this matter settled, and with December 5th looming close at hand, liquor manufacturers and distillers are speeding production in a big way. And it's not bathtub gin they're turning out, is it, my friend? The parade of the wooden soldiers. Here's the big moment. Acting Secretary of State William Phillips is signing the 21st Amendment, and Prohibition is repealed. There it is, official and everything. You can see for yourself. And now for some action. Thousands of cases of liquor have been waiting in warehouses for this moment, and the rush is on to load up and deliver the goods to hotels, restaurants, and liquor stores in every direction. Meanwhile, thousands of cases of fine wines and spirits are coming right off the boat, and this time it's the real stuff, Europe's best. In Times Square, jubilant crowds are gathering to celebrate, and you can't blame them. Just think, 14 years. Here at Park Lane, they've opened a round-the-world bar. You order a drink from any part of the world and get it right on the spot. The demand for fine and expensive liquors is so great that hotel wine cellars, which have weathered the dry era, are rapidly depleted. Here in Chicago, the Congress Bar presents a scene that beggars description. It's like an armistice celebration after a long and devastating war. Similar scenes are being enacted at the Palmer House. It's one grand and glorious party everywhere you look. The bartenders are certainly doing their stuff tonight. And how? Whoopee! There'll be a lot of hangovers tomorrow. But tonight's the big blow-off. Everybody's celebrating. It's the biggest night in the history of Prohibition. This only happens once in 14 years. Whoopee! Let's have another. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. The worst cataclysm on American soil in 30 years. A terrific earthquake that shook California from Los Angeles to the sea, destroying a number of cities and towns, killing 120 men, women, and children, and injuring 5,000. A terrible holocaust that made hundreds of thousands homeless and caused damages exceeding $50 million. A Senate investigating committee begins a far-reaching quiz into the activities and methods of the country's leading banks and financiers. Sensational testimony is wrung from high Wall Street figures, including J.P. Morgan, whose startling admission that he has not paid any income tax for several years shocked the nation. The investigation still continues with more amazing disclosures. Stringent banking and tax laws will result. Science can explain most things, but here is something that has all the doctors stopped. Martina, the human icicle, allows himself to be buried in a coffin of solid ice where he remains for 20 minutes with only 1.5 cubic feet of air to breathe. They do a good job of sealing, too. How do you feel, old kid? Is it cold enough for you? Boy, you can have it all. No polar bears in my family. The 20 minutes is up, I guess, and it's a lucky thing for Martina the timekeeper's watch didn't stop. It's a hard job to get him out, but here he is, right off the ice. Boy, it isn't all it's cracked up to be. Human icicle is right. Brr. Well, so it's come to this. Yes, sir. They're exhibiting transparent gowns in the salons here along the Champs-Élysées. And what a kick it is for the boulevardiers. They may be wearing their dresses longer here in Paris, but they certainly don't run to colors. It's just about the last word in visibility. But don't be perturbed. This is only a lingerie show. You're not supposed to pay any attention to the gowns. Anyone can see through that. Here in Miami, Mrs. Lindbergh and the Flying Colonel are getting ready to hop for home. I'll bet Lindy's a happy young man today to be starting the last leg of his 30,000-mile air tour. Anne's happy, too, at the thought of getting back to her youngster little John Morrow Lindbergh. And there they go. The big Lockheed monoplane zips along over Biscayne Bay and takes the air as if it, too, were anxious to get back home. After a stopover in Charleston, Lindy speeds on to New York and, playing hide-and-seek with newsreel camera planes, drops down to the East River off College Point, the same spot where he started his momentous air tour more than 5 months ago. Welcome home. They're safe and sound after braving untold dangers. And maybe you don't think New York's glad to see them. Lindy and his courageous wife have written a new chapter in aviation history. A century of progress exposition. Chicago's great World's Fair. Opened by Postmaster General Farley.
President Roosevelt has delegated to me the honor of representing him at the opening of this great exposition.
Here's Saeed Bugabera, the demon bike rider, looking through a 6-foot square of heavy plate glass. And he's going right through it on his motorcycle. There he comes! Boy, oh boy! It takes nerve to do that. Here he's doing it again in slow motion. But even with slow motion, it's a whole lot too fast for me. Well, maybe that's your idea of a good time, Saeed. But I know a lot of easier ways to commit suicide. Adolf Hitler, leader of the German national movement, is made Chancellor of Germany. And Berlin goes wild in celebration of his victory. Torchlight parade like the Berlin night as backers commemorate his victory by marching through the streets and through the Brandenburg Gate. Crowds of supporters raise their hands in the fascist salute, honoring both Hitler and German President von Hindenburg. A strident anti-communist, it took a month of secret negotiations and a new election for Hitler to win the chancellery, becoming only the third member of the Nazi Party to join the German cabinet. He joins Dr. Wilhelm Frick and Aviation Minister Hermann Goering in running the German government. However, that minority is expected to change to a majority as the Hitler government takes shape. Hitler had to pull out all the stops to achieve victory in one of the most violent political campaigns ever to proceed a free election anywhere. And even as the Hitler victory was announced and the torchlight parades began, communist agitators began milling in the streets in protest. They posted handbills calling for a nationwide general strike. As they posted their bills, violence erupted on the streets of Berlin. As Nazis walked home after one of the torchlight parades, fights broke out. A police officer marching with the Nazis was shot to death by Reds. One of the Nazi Party members was also killed. It's expected that Chancellor Hitler will not easily forget the violent incident. He wants to eliminate all communists in Germany. He's made that one of his government's top priorities. The head of the Hitler press office says that the Chancellor's new government will not tolerate any experiments of a financial or economic nature, including any type of economic experiments by communists. Even though Chancellor Hitler is often considered by some to be power-hungry and tempestuous, some German watchers believe he will be less dangerous in government office than he is in the street commanding his stormtroopers. A monster demonstration gets underway as thousands parade through the streets of New York in protest to the anti-Semitic activities of Hitler and his Nazi followers in Germany. The marchers include Jewish war veterans and members of many other organizations. And women's auxiliary units were in the line, too. At City Hall, they were reviewed by Mayor O'Brien. An immense crowd had gathered, intensely interested in the parade and thoroughly sympathetic to its purpose. A monster demonstration gets underway as thousands parade through the streets of New York in protest to the anti-Semitic activities of Hitler and his Nazi followers in Germany. The marchers include Jewish war veterans and members of many other organizations. And women's auxiliary units were in the line, too. At City Hall, they were reviewed by Mayor O'Brien. An immense crowd had gathered, intensely interested in the parade and thoroughly sympathetic to its purpose. A committee presented to the mayor a scroll bearing resolutions of protest against the anti-Semitic outrages that have been reported in Germany. America won't stand for religious persecution. Rank after rank and column upon column, led by determined bands of men who fought for England in the World War, the Jews of London are marching today in protest against Nazi persecutions of Jewish people in Germany. They've called a huge mass meeting in Hyde Park, and 50,000 Jews assembled there to denounce Adolf Hitler's anti-Semitic policy and to demand an international boycott of German-made goods. It's an amazing demonstration, one of the most impressive ever held in London.
In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt offered the American people a way out of the Depression. Federal agencies were set up to regulate industry and to create millions of jobs through government-sponsored projects. At the same time, in Germany, Adolf Hitler became chancellor and was given dictatorial power by the Reichstag. All opposition parties were disbanded, and concentration camps were set up. Though the seriousness of America's own financial problems muffled the rumblings of war overseas, the writing was on the wall. This has been Year by Year. I'm Karen Stone for the History Channel.
And now a History Channel news fact.
Timeline, 1812. In London, young people are raving about a scandalous new dance called the waltz. But many fashionable ballrooms won't allow it. Stay tuned for more news later on the History Channel.